I see you got significantly more notes in today's show notes than last week. No thanks to me.
Yeah, I had been waffling on whether I had anything to say or wanted to talk about it, and I still don't really know, but it bugs me enough that I figured I should put it in the notes.
It just looks like more stuff to distract. I mean, it's
It
not good.
does.
It's not good.
So we'll get into it. I want to start with something else that of interest from over the weekend that's unrelated that I didn't get a chance to put in the notes.
Oh yeah.
Um, so with the jujitsu stuff, in Portuguese, professor is the same word for instructor, so they're called professors for teachers, and you have classes, of course, but uh, part of how the instructors make extra money is to do what they call seminars, which is just they travel and teach some techniques that you may or may not be exposed to elsewise. It's just like a big group lesson. And there's normally two seminars a year as far as that are hosted at the gym here. And so what they do is they wrap like promotions for adults up in the seminars as well and make a big day out of it. Um, I did not get a belt promotion, so I'm not going there. But where I'm going with it though is I'm finally close to that point. So before the uh, surgery, I had a seminar in January that I was going to go to that I didn't go to. That if I had gone to, it's likely I would have gotten the fourth stripe on my belt. There's four stripes with each belt color, and then you go to the next belt. And this past weekend, I finally got that fourth stripe. So
Oh
uh,
nice.
feels good to have gotten back into the swing of things. And then that's just kind of like, I will always remember that one because it's the one I got coming back from the surgery. So it was
Yeah,
more
yeah.
interesting or meant more to me than I expected it to, which was the whole reason I was going to bring it up.
That's really cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. I still just a beginner though. Wait. It's funny. My perspective on the amount of time it takes to get a belt is so drastically different than it was prior to jujitsu. Because, and just for comparison's sake, so I've been training a little over 3 years, right? It's 3 years and like 4 or 5 months at this point, and I'm still on my second belt color. Um, Whereas when I did Taekwondo, I think it was about 3 years. It might have been a little longer than what I've put in now, but I had gone through white, yellow, orange, green, purple, blue, and that's where I stopped. So six belts in the same kind of time frame. And it's just funny.
Is it because the belts are acquired in a different way?
It's just a very different art. It's so involved, and there's so many different ways to do things that it just takes that much time to
Yeah.
kind of get things. And there are only six belts. Or six belt colors. Now with kids, there's a whole kids belt system that's different from the adult belt system. Because in order to get your blue belt, I think you have to be 16. So, if you started as a kid, they don't want you to be a white belt for 12 years. So they have a belt system that covers that age gap. And then I think you have to be 19 to be able to earn your black belt. Like the absolute youngest you could be would be 19, I think. But anyway, the average time spent at each belt color is between 1 and 4 years, just depending on how often you train and everything else. Which is why the stripes come in, so that you feel like you're making progress in between the long time frame between each belt color.
Awesome. So are the stripes all the same color, or is there any significance to this? I guess the question is it just the number of stripes, or do they have any significance to each of them?
Yeah, for the adult system, it's just the number of stripes. I think some gyms do it a little bit differently, but for the most part, it's 4 stripes per belt color. Um, and they get, I shouldn't say they get progressively longer in between, because then they get shorter again. So, white belt, the average time spent at white is between 1 and 3 years. And so the first stripe normally comes after about a month to give you some incentive and make you feel good because you still have no clue what's going on. Um, and then it gets longer in between for the other stripes. Blue is the longest belt color or time in belt other than black, when assuming you get to black and have, years ahead of you. Um, Blue is an average of 2 to 4 years. And generally speaking, each stripe is about 6 months apart. It's not quite like that, but it's on average. But then purple is like 1 to 3 years. It shrinks a little bit again. And then brown is like 1 to 3 years as well. So the theory is that white, you just kind of get your feet wet and kind of learn something about how to defend some, attacks against somebody that's not trained at all. And that's kind of how you get to blue. And then blue, you start learning how to go up against somebody else who does train. Like that's the demarcation point as far as what the belts should represent. So you're still not good. You're still a beginner and you're still learning everything. But it's against an untrained opponent, you should be safe and really be able to control the situation. And then against a trained opponent, you should be able to kind of figure out maybe a counter, depends on how equal your skill levels are. And then in theory at purple, you start figuring out how to actually manipulate somebody's reactions to do what you want to do or to get what you want to get. And then brown is essentially just a black belt without the black belt. At that point, you're just refining your favorite techniques and exploring some new things that are available to you. I shouldn't say it quite that way, but based on rule sets, like certain moves are prohibited at different belt levels. So white belts can't do certain things. Blue belts, you gain the ability to do a couple of ankle locks and wrist locks. In as far as competitive jiu-jitsu goes. Purple, there's no real change. Brown, you start introducing leg locks and things of that nature, and then black, finger and toe holds are part of it.
So I looked up because I wanted to understand how the colors, which color was which rank which rank. And I see, and I don't know if this is maybe specific to Japanese jiu-jitsu or not, but I'm seeing after black belt, a red belt.
Yeah, there's a red belt and then a coral belt. I will never make it past black. The age or the time limit is just, that alone seals my ability to get that far.
So so I guess what different is a question. I know you mentioned there are certain techniques that you're not allowed to use depending on your rank, but at what point, what moves you from a white belt to a blue belt?
Technically, your instructor saying that you're good enough.
Okay, so there is some amount of, I imagine there's some objective.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Skill set that they're looking for, but it sounds like maybe there's some level of subjectivity to it.
There is, because it's supposed to be, it depends on where you go, but the way it's described, and we were having this conversation not too long ago because of the promotions that we knew were coming up. Within the Gracie Baja system, it's all up to the instructor about whether or not you demonstrate a proficiency to be at that belt level. And so it's very subjective from that standpoint. But culturally, it's not as subjective as it seems. It does open the door for it. Like if somebody wanted to open a gym in the franchise and they were just wanted to promote people because they wanted to or liked them, they could, technically. Like, there's nothing actually stopping it. So in the way you would combat that, it would be to seek out the school, learn more about it, see, what type of competitors they produce, to know whether or not they hold their own at their belt levels and are, somewhat equivalent to other schools, competitors, and things of that nature. There's a bunch of different ways you can look at it. But all that to be said, like, white to blue is basically just time. You show up, you put in an average of a couple of days a week, and after a year and a half, 2 years, something in that time frame, you kind of accidentally stumble into getting your blue, because at that point you have a rudimentary understanding of things, even if you're not proficient at pulling them off, which is essentially all that white is. Blue, you have to end up demonstrating some proficiency with practical application, or you're just going to sit at blue over and over and over and over. Like, they're just not gonna. You're not gonna happen your way into purple, which is why so many drop out at blue.
That makes sense.
That said, I mean, it's really tough to hide skill level when you're sparring on the mats, because it's the one art that you can actually legitimately practice pretty much full 100% effort, and so you can't really hide from whether you're capable of doing something or not.
You have to be extra good if you are to hide it, I suppose.
Yeah, but getting close to halfway through.
Good.
But the other interesting tidbit that I know won't necessarily be an insight, but one of the other guys. So we have a group of about half a dozen of us that started within, say, 4 or 6 months of each other, that have hit these promotions or the milestones pretty consistently together. And I think it's the only group that stayed that way that I've seen. Like, there have been other smaller pockets of 2 and 3, but I think ours is the largest group that has had the same number of people continue to go through. But we were talking about how when I got promoted to blue, I didn't feel like I was even remotely close to deserving it. And now that I'm a couple of years into having a blue belt, now I finally feel like I'm a blue belt.
And you have the 4th stripe?
I do. I got it this weekend. And so what we were talking about is it's real deceptive because of the amount of time you spend. We think of the belt at the end of that period, not the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a nice reminder that purple belt's going to come faster than any of us think we're ready for.
Yeah.
And we're not going to, it's going to drive imposter syndrome for a bit. But then by the time we hit the end of purple, it'll be, okay, I feel like I have this now, just in time to repeat the process.
Yep. I've experienced that in other areas of my life. And so, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I don't think I had anything else from that. It was just a fun weekend as a result.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Now we can move to the angry, horrible, depressing.
Oh my gosh.
I want to go back to what you said, because I think I think this is a perfect illustration of that, but I do think that it's tainted a bit with, like, it might be testing the waters to see if anybody will challenge it as well.
Oh, no.
Kind of thing.
It's definitely bad stuff. In and of itself, it is bad stuff, but it's not the only reason it's bad stuff. Like, it is inherently bad.
Right. So just in case, historical purposes, somebody stumbling across the episode, talking about recent news where Trump has taken control of the Washington, D.C. police force and ordered National Guard and FBI agents to assist with patrolling the streets to some effect. On top of that, I didn't actually include the link for this one, but I saw where the White House is planning an audit and overview of the Smithsonian's exhibitions to make sure that they are up to their standards, I suppose, is a good way to put it. And then that's piggybacked with the administration rewriting and scaling back a report on human rights that historically has been looked at as one of the most cohesive reports on human rights violations and issues around the world, and is now essentially a joke. Yeah, a lot of individual things, and it's yes, it's distraction, and for good reason. Like I have heard less clamoring about releasing the Epstein files as a result, but I still don't think that's going away, or at least I really hope that continues to be a pressure point, because that's the only real counterbalance to this at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's going to go away either. But
especially since I should have taken a picture of it or grabbed the link. I saw where a poll stated that over 86% of the surveyed population were in favor of releasing the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Like, that's overwhelming for our our divisive nation.
I think the issue right now is that we don't have any corporations that want it to be released. Otherwise, it'd get released.
That seems to be very truthful at the moment.
Yeah.
Or maybe we should rephrase that. No corporations or billionaires.
Right.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. Corporations are their billionaire. To some extent, they're billionaire owners for whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking about there are some corporations that probably aren't at that threshold that would factor in. And there are certainly some billionaires who would factor in that are no longer running corporations, even if they, even if that's how they made their fortune.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that.
And so, like, I grabbed a bunch of notes out of those articles just to remember bits and pieces, and I will, of course, put them in the show notes, and maybe I'll put the quotes in too, just for summary's sake, and see if it's worth it. But all of it just makes me frustrated, I suppose, is the best way to describe it, and feeling somewhat helpless in how to respond in a positive way.
Say that again?
Feeling somewhat helpless at how to respond in a positive way. Like how do I push back other than, voicing dissent and voting? What else is a possibility?
I don't know. I've been struggling with that for a long time.
And I mean, you could say protesting, the organization of people showing disfavorable opinion by protest is positive to an extent, but it doesn't change things, or so far it has not seemed to change things. And I don't want to discount it, because I know we've even talked about it, where that helps show the people on the inside who are trying to push back that there's a reason to continue to try to push back. So it has its place. But to me, that's not enough for me to feel satisfied. And I've been struggling with how do I find a way to rebuke things properly and feel like I'm doing my part. Makes me wish I had... have you seen the Cats on a Couch Instagram account?
I don't think so.
Their whole point is to be petty and have more followers than J.D. Vance, and so there's a lot of pointed critique of the administration. They've done a really good job of having people show up and put stuff like wanted posters with like the bubble head, or not bubble, the overly big head J.D. Vance image, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
One of the things I saw that I laughed. Apparently, he's either on vacation or on some trip over in the United Kingdom, and someone rented one of those like billboard vans and has the big picture of him following him around.
I did see that, and it is. I don't know if there's any work involved, but there is vacationing involved in that trip. So, yeah, but I saw the van.
And so, like that to me feels like it's a a good way of pushing back that makes sense for that person. That's how they're coping and dealing with things. And I just don't have an answer for myself yet.
Yeah, it feels like there's not a lot that you can do to be effective. I mean, you can look at facts and you can find that like Washington D.C. is at a 30-year low for violent crime, and the violent crime rate is down 26%. So why is Trump invading DC? To distract, and probably also as a, like you said, as a test bed. But I gotta be thinking there's like some FBI agents who are now feeling like beat cops are like, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the areas where I feel like I have a problem with the lack of resistance. And I get at a certain point you have to do what your superiors tell you to do, right? Like I understand that piece. And as long as it's not in violation of your oath of service, then you really don't have a compelling way to say no.
Well, there's this,
At least with regard to federal agents. Um, and I kind of get that feeling from one of the other articles that was talking about there being a hard cap on how long the president can invoke control over DC's forces. And so the question is whether the courts actually hold him accountable at the end of that time frame or not if he tries to go beyond it. Um, but all that said, like the Washington D.C. police force, that you've got to wonder if they're not finally waking up, or maybe they felt that way anyway, but finally reaching a point where it's like, how do we oppose this madness?
right. I see. I don't.
And I have a concerning thought there. This was not from an article; it was from a social media post that I saw somewhere, um, where someone had been talking to uh, an acquaintance or somebody else that was very much a Trump supporter and a part of that group. And the takeaway that this person had was that the Constitution gets in the way of the brand of white nationalism or white Christian nationalism that they want.
Yeah.
And so a part of me is very much pessimistic about how much opposition there is.
Yeah. Just you just look at the top. He's stacked it with his yes men and yes women, and so you're not going to see, in during his first administration, there was some amount of resistance, not a lot, but it was different. But now, the break in between, the Biden administration gave people enough time to come up with a game plan and to put him up to be elected and to run their game plan. And these are not these are not his ideas. These are the ideas that are fed to him. He's in many respects a marionette. So yeah, it's I guess, to what end are we going to see this play out? Where is the line going to be drawn? Because it's ask yourself 10 years ago, where did you draw the line? And it's like, I thought it was going to be that recording in the bus. The grab him by the pussy recording, and where that line is so far away, it's like a dot to us.
Yeah, as this continues, I keep thinking back to I remember saying that I didn't see an outcome through this that didn't involve significant violence. I think the way I phrased it was that didn't involve bloodshed. And as this continues, it's less and less likely to me that we see through this without that happening?
I think at some point, I think if the whether it's the Epstein list or the Epstein files, whatever information that we have that is going to be problematic, I foresee when that information is released, I foresee see President Trump committing suicide. I think that is how he will. I kind of think that's how he might end it. I think he would commit suicide before. I think he would commit suicide before he faces accountability.
It's an interesting thought. I wouldn't have. I mean, thinking through it now, I can see the potential there.
I mean, I feel like we haven't seen like blatant or we haven't seen, like on camera desperation, but I mean in in November of 2024 he was desperate to win the election. Like he was, he was desperate to win the election to avoid his legal issues. Now he's desperate not to be, continue to be fought out. There are things that are happening. There have been instances there are instances of, his base starting to turn. Some of his most staunch supporters that are in office, question him. So is it, it certainly obviously hasn't been enough to turn the tide, but I don't know how long it's going to last. Like who's going to, which side is going to, which side is going to be trying, or I guess be able to withstand. Trump has had a lot of holding power for a long time, but maybe the end will be soon.
And there's still, of course, the question mark of how that will play out as well. Like I certainly don't think anybody else would fill the void with the, for whatever reason, power grasp that he has. Like I guess that's part of the frustration as well, is that I look at him and I can't help but see a weak little man. And so why does he control so much? What
it's
is
bizarre.
It that, yeah.
But I mean, he's always been, it's, you go, what I've gone back to look at him, and he even, in the 80s and the 90s, he's always had more power than he's intelligent enough to have. I guess he's just been, I mean, he came from a place of privilege, certainly. And
there's got to be some either backroom deals or certain, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the leverage is just the Epstein files themselves at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing something. It's like, what is the Epstein list? Well, we don't know if there's a list. And then it's like, well, what are the Epstein files? Well, they're a thing that may be incriminating. I was like, well, why would they be there? I was like, well, duh. If you're gonna run a highly illegal sex trafficking operation, you're gonna write down all the names of everybody who's involved, because that's how you get a deal. You roll on them. So yeah, there's certainly files. There's certainly enough to incriminate a good number of people, and let's do it. I'm ready. Make it rain.
I don't think I have anything else on these topics, though.
Yeah. The thing is, it's terrible. What he's doing is terrible. How we've gotten here is not something that happened. It did not happen over the last 10 years. It's something that's happened over the last 50 years. And it really feels hopeless to be like, I know he's doing evil things. And, as I just, it makes me, it kind of makes me think, it's like, how much are they supporting? How much are they? I mean, it's just so messed up. We're sending so much aid to Israel so that they can continue with the genocide of the people of Gaza. And it's likely because Netanyahu has the Epstein files. He could probably expose Trump. I wouldn't, it wouldn't surprise me that's part of the impetus for continuing to support Israel. And then they're trying to end a war with Russia, in Russia's conflict with Ukraine without Ukraine being present.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that it's. I mean, so as far as counterintelligence and everything else, the Israeli forces tend to be among the best. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did have it part of a list or whatever related to the Epstein files. But I think it's more basic than that. I think it's just purely racially motivated.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at
it could be one or the other, but I think it's both.
It could be. I certainly wouldn't rule it out, but it feels more racially motivated to me than it does fear of what Netanyahu would do.
Yeah, I don't have any trouble getting behind that statement at all. So,
and it wouldn't surprise me if part of it is just because I have no kind of ties to the Middle East as far as culture or anything else either. And so just as an observer from a U.S. background looking in, it's like I could see it being extremely prejudiced against an opposing religious view.
That's what makes
it's the whole reason for the Crusades in the first place.
Yeah, right.
It still amazes me that anybody could go to any level of warfare over a religious belief.
I mean, religious belief is just a guise for power.
Fair.
Because, yeah, it's all power. It's all control. Because there are just some people that are corrupt and they seek out power. I know we're nowhere near this, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? They show dystopian, they show in a dystopian future that the machines have taken control and the people are subjected to being managed by them. But I was like, you know what? I don't think it would be dystopian at all. I think it would do a much better job. I think the machines would do a much better job of running the world. But speaking of dystopian, I read somewhere that somebody said a dystopian future is when you take the bad things that are happening to a marginalized group and then apply it to the entire world. That's a dystopian future. And I was like, ooh, that is not wrong.
I can't think of anything to follow that with.
iPhone and OS season's upon us.
Have they? I haven't paid attention. Have they announced a date yet? No, it's still too early in August.
So. Yeah. It'll probably be
first
Tuesday
week of September.
Yeah. Well, it's usually
announce.
Announce
the event. Sorry, let me clarify.
Oh yeah, I was thinking maybe either the first week, maybe the last week of August. I don't know, because don't they usually do 2 weeks out?
See, I can't remember, but I always remember it being close. And I think one year they did it just a week out.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think they had a Mac event. I think for the M3, the MacBook Pros that had the M3 Pro and M3 Max. I think they did that the week of, and it was it was a Wednesday event, it was Halloween or something. I just remember it was really short time frame, but I was going to say that I'm assuming it's going to be the day before my birthday because it's usually the first or the second Tuesday, the second Tuesday after Labor Day. Because Labor Day is usually the very beginning of it's the first work week of September, and then it's usually the Tuesday not the Tuesday directly after that, but the Tuesday following that week.
I don't know that I'm all that excited for an event this year. I mean, I'm ready for the OS to be standard instead of or the actual release of the OS to be here instead of having the dichotomy of the dichotomy of running a beta device on iPad and phone so that I can test stuff and still keep my personal phone standard so I can test stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had the beta on any of your daily carries.
No, not on. Well, you can call my iPad a daily carry, but I don't use it daily like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's it. Like I don't. My daily carry phone is not updated to the beta.
Is that a 16 Pro or 16 Pro Max?
A 16 Pro Max.
Do you have a 16 Pro as well for testing? I feel like you had.
I do not. I have. Okay. What do I have? I have two.
I'm only wondering
Pro Maxes.
I'm wondering how different the case is between the 15 Pro and the 16 Pro. I was wondering if they'd made any changes, but
well, the 16 Pro introduced the camera button.
Yeah, but that's just a cutout in the case. There's a 16 Pro case I saw somewhere, and they only make it for the 16 Pro, and I was wondering if it would fit the 15 Pro. That was 100% the selfish reason I'm asking.
I know the 15 Pro Max and 16 Pro Max cases are not interchangeable.
Then I would assume that the 16 Pro and 15 Pro are not interchangeable.
I mean, if you were to modify the cases, maybe, because I think it's just that the 15 Pro Max fits more snug and triggers all the buttons. So you might be able to get away with some modification, but just straight swap, no.
I am not interested in any modifications of any sort. I'm too grown for that now. Not too grown. I'm too old for that now. Like I want to, because I want to, point out the difference. It's not that grown-ups can do that kind of stuff, and that's who should be doing that kind of modification. It makes the world a better place. I'm just like, no, I'm too. It's really not that much of a need for me. I can just wait until I have a phone that they make a case for it that I like. So anyway,
I do leave a case on the 15 Pro Max, but it's only so it's real easy to distinguish at a glance.
Is that the one you have in natural titanium?
Good question. Yes.
And I had to pick it up and look. What for your daily carry? You have a 16 Pro Max for your daily. What color did you get that one?
The whatever variant they're calling the black.
Oh, I think it's just black.
Yeah, I can't remember. It doesn't look black. It's not the black that I like the
iPhone 7 black was the best black.
Yeah,
because that was the year they had two. That was the year that they were so good at black. They had two blacks. They had the black and they had the jet black.
Yeah, that one was. I really liked that one.
That was. I totally agree. That was the best black that they ever did.
But this might be the first year in a while that I don't upgrade mine. I mean, we'll wait and see. But I'm not doing as much with the phone camera-wise anymore as I was doing, so I don't find it as compelling from that standpoint.
Makes sense.
And that was the main thing that drove my upgrades the past couple of years.
And as rumor has it, this is going to be. The rumors are that there's a significant change in the camera for this upcoming model.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to be huge for me to worry about it, though.
I think the rumors are like a 10x optical zoom.
While that would be nice, I just don't. I'm not zooming to 5 with my phone. Like it's
no.
Pretty much every time I use the phone, it's either on the standard 2 lens or dropping down to the half to get a much wider angle shot.
Makes sense. I haven't been clamoring to upgrade. I'm a year behind. I'm still on a 15 Pro. I've been a fan of this phone.
I don't want to say that I'm not using it because I do use the video features. I mean, part of getting this phone was to do dual, like behind the scenes video anytime I want to set them up to do so. And so I do use them. It's just it's not compelling to upgrade beyond what I have because I'm not shooting any of that over 4K anyway.
Right. It's always interesting to see how much. I wouldn't say I wasn't that. Yeah, I didn't find the 16 that interesting. There wasn't. I didn't feel like there was a lot going there for it. So
Yeah, I haven't really used it as much. Well, I mean, I've used it plenty. I don't want to say it that way. I haven't. I could have not gotten it and just used the other one and still been fine for what I've done. At this point, it is just nice to have two different kind of behind the scenes angles if I want to set them up with those and not have to move it around.
Yeah.
But that's just a little bit of laziness more so than anything. And it's not like I don't have a couple of other cameras I could do the same thing with. And I think that's part of it. At this point, I have so many options available to me that I just don't care. I'll just set up one of my other camera bodies.
How is mixing and matching the Panasonics with iPhone?
It's not bad.
Not bad.
You can tell a difference, but you can tell a difference between iPhone and anything else if you look for it.
Yeah, I remember you saying that now.
And it's mostly just down to physics. I mean, the phone's always going to look a little bit flatter than something you could create with any camera body, but it's so hard to tell unless you're in that world that it doesn't really matter. And especially since I can shoot log and then color grade, and it's close. Like it's close enough that I can mask them in such similar ways that it just doesn't matter. I guess that's 3 or 4 different ways of saying the same thing. I'll put it this way. Sure. It's easier to match the phone to the cameras, whether it's phone to Canon or phone to Panasonic, than it is to match the two manufacturers.
Panasonic to Canon.
Yeah.
Huh, that's interesting.
And part of it's probably just because the starting point of the lookup tables. So the way you color grade, did I explain LUTs in the past? Or are you familiar with them?
I don't think that we talked about this.
Okay.
I'm not familiar.
When you shoot in log, you're shooting in essentially the video raw kind of format. It's not actually raw because that's even more color options available to you and much larger file size and everything else. But it's kind of the same concept. So it's recording it in a way that requires you to apply a lookup table to it to translate the data recorded to the way the colors should be displayed in a particular color space. I think it's probably the easiest way to describe it. It's not 100% accurate, but it's close enough. And so these lookup tables, abbreviated LUT, which is where you hear LUT referred to often if you're talking to somebody in that space. These lookup tables come from the manufacturers, and different log formats are developed by different manufacturers for their stuff. And certain log formats are closer to others with regard to color science and all. When you apply the lookup tables, some of them you manipulate more to get them closer, et cetera, et cetera. And each manufacturer can have multiple different versions if they want to create. For example, Canon has done C-Log, or for Canon Log, C-Log 2, C-Log 3. There are different reasons and different specifications for each variant, et cetera. And so each of those will have a slightly different look, but it'll be pretty cohesive because it's all Canon if you're using their lookup tables. So if you use a third-party lookup table, you get, whatever that third party has decided to promote as their look, or however they're billing it and selling it. And you can create and apply however many lookup tables, or you can create endless number of lookup tables yourself if you want to sit and play with it and then export it and bring it back in and use it as default, all that kind of stuff. So all that to say is that thousands and thousands and thousands of lookup tables exist. If you use the lookup tables from the manufacturers and you apply them to convert to a specific color space, the same one with the different manufacturers, you get a relatively close starting point for all of them. And so Apple is more in between where Canon and Panasonic has been as far as when I apply those tables than Canon and Panasonic are to each other.
I see.
So that's the best way I know to describe it without having a really deep technical dive into a bunch of different pieces.
I think that makes sense. So
you could think of a lookup table a lot like a preset that you apply to a raw photo.
Yeah. And then
So yeah, it's not bad. And honestly, I quit shooting in Panasonic's version of log on the two newest cameras. I think I mentioned this, that I could shoot in ARRI log on those.
Yes, you did. You did mention that. I do remember you saying
and so
that.
I've been recording an ARRI log, and man, that looks so much better to me. It's really not that drastically different. It's like I will give Panasonic credit. Their color space is really close, but there is something about the ARRI lookup tables that what they do, it looks good.
We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after-show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.